Hey there, this video is dedicated to looking at this base for our machine vice project. Now, I'm going to start by looking at the model at a couple of the features specifically, but for the most part, you should be able to completely create this model. And then there's some little nuances that I want to let you know about as we kind of finish up some of the details. Specifically, we're going to be looking at how to put the holes in as threaded holes, and then also the Acme thread. And then lastly, how to model when we're going to be adding tolerances, knowing that we are going to have to add those to our drawing. So I have the model pulled up already, and right now I have a complete model. But what I want to do is I want to re-put in these holes so that you can see how they're done using the hole wizard. So I am going to simply go down and I'm going to delete my two holes here. And I'm going to start by going up on my model ribbon and I'm going to put in a hole. This is going to be a standard type of a hole and it's going to be tapped. And I need to call out the size of the tap. So it's going to be a UNC as said in the note, and it needs to be a quarter 20. Okay. Now depth wise, I'm going to update this right away. This needs to be 0.625. And then we have this placement menu that comes up. If it doesn't, click on the placement menu and you'll see this, that's going to be the standard. So first of all, we need to place it and we want to put it on this surface right here. Okay. And then you're going to notice that the next thing is the offset references. So it wants to know where are we offsetting the location of this hole from? So these are going to be the dimensions. So on here, CREO always has these broken diamonds, okay? And you can click on those, drag them. And what we want to do is we want to place them over the edge that we want a dimension to. So notice that if I'm not on an edge, they're broken. If I get to an edge, they close. And that means, okay, that's a valid edge that we can go from. So when I release this, when it's closed, I then get a dimension, okay? And that dimension, I can simply double click on it and I can key in the value from my model, okay? So that's the 0.625 from that edge. And then the other broken diamond, I'm gonna go down to the bottom here. I'm gonna release when it closes over that edge. And now you'll notice that I can either double click here. Now be careful when it's over the model. I did this earlier and when I double click this, it actually selected the edge and then all of a sudden my hole moved, okay? So I'm gonna actually select it over here in my menu and I want this to be 1 inch, okay? So now it moved that to that position. You'll notice that I get my green check mark. Okay, that means that you have everything in place and now you can actually, hit okay to accept everything, but you just want to double click or double check all of the settings that we have here, which look good. And now I'm going to hit okay. And you'll notice that it places it in there for us. And we can see in that greenish that it's in a simplified form. Okay. Those threads will show up when I do my drawing. Okay. Those threads will show up when I do my drawing. Let's put the next one in. The next one needs to be placed 1.5 inches to the left, but in line with this hole. Now, instead of doing a mirror, all right, we're going to place another one in there and then it'll maintain the dimensions that we're looking for. So I'm going to click on hole again and make sure that the very same things are going to be selected. So I need to go to standard. I need to have straight, tapped, UNC, and I need this to be quarter 20. It remembers from before. I'm going to select my depth or key in my depth at 0.625. And now I'm going to place it. So I'm going to place it like right about here. Okay. And I'm going to take one of my diamonds and I'm going to put it down to this bottom surface right here. I know that needs to be 1 inch up, right? So we're simply going to key in over here 1 inch again, because it's over the body. I don't want that to move. And now I need to do my second one. All right. Now make sure that your axes are actually shown. All right. So I turn mine on and off because sometimes it gets a little busy with all the planes and the axes and all that kind of stuff. So if you need to toggle them back on, you want to go up to your display here and just make sure that your axis display is on. Okay. So mine is now, and you'll see that I have the axis right here. So I'm going to take that broken diamond, I'm going to grab it, drag it. And then when I hover over and that axis turns orange, my diamond is going to close. And I'm going to release it And now I have the option for the distance in between here. So I'm going to double click here, 1.5, enter, and there we go. Okay. So I'm double checking. Now, see, sometimes this happens. I don't know why. So I put this in after, and this dimension went to 1.049. So I'm going to double click on this again, and I'm going to go back to, this just needs to be 1 inch. Enter. There we go. Now it looks like it's got the right one. So always kind of double check, and you'll see that happen sometimes in CREO. You make one change and you thought you had the other one set, and you probably did, but then it adjusted a little bit. So you have to go back. So so watch for those things in CREO. I'm not sure why it does that, but it sneaks up on us. Okay, so now I think I'm all set, and I'm going to hit OK. And notice now it places the second one in that simplified format. So that looks good. Okay, so now those are in place. The other one that we have here is going to be, I'm going to go back up here, is going to be the 0.625-8 Acme thread. Okay, now one of the things that you can do, should be able to do, is simply add what we call a cosmetic thread to the front here. Okay, and you can go underneath the engineering section here, do the cosmetic thread, and then we can actually select that inside. But what I've been finding is that it's not working in terms of, it won't show it in the actual drawing itself. And how we need to show it is in that simplified form that we also see for the hidden line, or the threaded holes here. Now you might be saying, well, why can't we put it in as a regular hole? We could, okay, we could, but there are no options for Acme threads. Okay, so what I want you to do instead is to just put this in as a 0.625 diameter hole, just as a generic hole. It's going to come in, and then we'll make the adjustments for the hidden lines on the actual drawing, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so just keep this hole right here at 0.625. Okay, now the next thing I wanted to talk about is going to be the width of the cutouts that are on the bottom here that are going to be utilizing tolerances when it's in the drawing mode. So I'm going to go back over here, and we're going to look at the values that we have here for each one of the cutouts. So the width here on the widest part is 1.254 to 1.250. So those are the limits. That means that it can get as high as the 1.254 and as low as the 1.250. But if we're going to model this, we can only model it to one number, and the number you want to pick is going to be the middle number. So I'm going to kind of go out over here, and my middle number here is going to be 1.252, because what that does for me then is I'll have plus 2 thousandths, and that's going to go up to my high value, right? And I'm going to have minus 2 thousandths, and that's going to go down to my low value. And I can key in this tolerance when I do my dimensioning, and I'm going to make it a limit dimension then. Okay, so when you model this, then you're going to model it to that middle number. Okay, so if I go back and I look at my sketch here, and I'm just going to click on this because I'm not exactly sure. There it is, the base cut. I'm going to expand this in my tree, and I'm going to go down to the sketch, or section 1. We know that's the sketch. And I'm going to edit that definition. And you are going to see that my dimension right here for the width of that cutout is 1.254. All right, so that's the number that I actually modeled to. Now, if we go down a little bit further and I look at my dimension up here, my dimension is 1.002. So let's look at how we get that one. I'm going to go back underneath here. The width of that size is right here at the 1.004 to 1.001. So the middle number there is 1.002. And again, it's going to be plus 2 thousandths, minus 2 thousandths to obtain the highest and the lowest value, which will show as limits in our actual drawing. Okay, so now that is how you're going to model that. Now, you don't need to worry about these 2 dimensions because it's going to automatically center, as long as you set it up correctly, for those 2 dimensions. All right. So in my model here, notice that I don't have those side values at all. All right. I just have my middle dimension here, and it's mirrored. So I drew the one side, and then I mirrored it over the center line. And now I'm noticing I have a weak dimension here, which is not characteristic of me. So I need to add a dimension from the top to the bottom, put it out here. Yeah, and it's there. And I think this is one of those little weird things that CREO likes to do. So it is a strong dimension now, and I'm in good shape. And so do the mirror over the center plane here for your actual part. Okay. So so that's what I wanted to show you for that, making sure that you model on the middle dimensions when there are tolerances. Okay. All right, now I'm just kind of looking here to see if there's anything else on that model. I'm not noticing anything else. Oh, I will show you one other thing. On this drawing, when I put my feet in here, so let's look at my feet. Here's my foot, okay? So you'll notice that I modeled this foot right here. And if we expand this out and I do a section of it and I look at it, I modeled it from this side right here. So this is the foot that I modeled, all right? And I attached it to the sides, I closed it up, and then I extruded it the thickness of 0.312, okay? So I did an okay on that, and one of those was made. Then what I did was, I did a mirror, okay, over that middle plane. So I'm going to show my planes. I don't have those in there right now. There we go. So that's going to be, I think that's the front plane. But yeah, it's the front plane. So I mirrored over the front plane to get on the other side. All right. So that's the second foot. Now I needed to then take these two and mirror both of them so that they would go to this side right here. Okay. But there was no plane in place because my right plane was over on this end, on the left end, and there was nothing here. You'll notice that there now is. I have a datum plane, all right? So I want to show you how to create that, because you can also use this datum plane not only to mirror those feet, but you can use it as your plane when you section in your actual drawing, okay? So, so to create this plane, and to create any plane, you can always create a plane more than what's in there by being on your model tree right here. And I'm just gonna select a random one, and I'm gonna put a plane in place, and it's gonna say, oh, you want to create a datum plane. All right, we have to select our references. So it's gonna want to know, where do you want to create this plane from? So I'm going to select my reference from that right plane, because I want it to be parallel to that right plane, but into the part. Now, the dimension I used for this one was the middle, okay, of this. So since the total length was 7¼ overall, I'm sorry, 7¼ overall, because it's 5 inches in between the holes, and then it's an inch and an eighth to the edge, and an inch and an eighth to the edge. So overall, it's going to be 7.25. That means that the middle then would be half of that dimension. Okay, I'm going to put mine in a different place because this one is in there already. So I'm going to select this reference, and notice that now it says, all right, we want to do an offset, and we want to translate how far. Okay. And this is now a key in dimension. So I'm going to translate, I'm going to say 4 inches because I want it to be offset. So I'm going to say 4 inches. I'm going to say, okay. And notice now what it did. Okay. It placed a new plane 4 inches away from that reference of the right plane, parallel to it, into that view. Okay. Let's do this again. I'm going to do another plane, and this time I'm going to reselect, and I'm going to say, actually, I'm so sorry, cancel. I want to unselect that. I want to do a brand new plane. Mine was still selected down here from when it was created. So I want to unselect that. So I did a cancel, and I hit my middle mouse button, and now I want to create a new plane. So I reselected this, and I'm going to reselect my right plane right here. And I want to translate. Now, the last time we used a value of 4. If I use a -4, see what happens. It goes on the other side. Okay. So if you find that it goes in the wrong direction, all right, then all you need to do is you can add a negative value or you can flip the direction this way as well. Okay. So, so I'm going to hit an okay here. So now I've got another plane located out there, and I can use them for various reasons. Maybe they're to maybe draw some more geometry on. They might be to do a mirror like we had earlier. They might be to create a section view. Okay. So, so just know that you can create planes for exactly that purpose. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna get rid of my datum plane here. So they come in as DTM3. I'm gonna do a delete on that. I'm gonna say okay. And I'm gonna also delete the other plane that I created because I really don't need it. I wanted to just show the process of. The one that I do want is this one, which was located up here. And that was created for the purpose of mirroring these 2 feet over the center so that we could get the back 2 feet in place. Okay. And now this plane is in the geometry for the model, All right. Now, as far as the actual model, this is what I wanted to show you. All right. So I'm going to do one more save on this. And I'm going to do my managing my file. I'm going to delete the old versions. Yes. And I'm going to leave this open for right now. But I'm going to create a drawing off of it now that I have my model all set. So to do that, I'm going to do new. I'm going to create a drawing, and I'm going to click on use the drawing model file name. Okay, that way the file name is going to be listed properly in my title block. So I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to say use template, and I'm going to browse, and I'm going to have my new CREO drawing borders in the same directory as I have all of my other items. Remember, we're keeping this we're kind of dumping them into one directory. We're not trying to be neat about it, but our templates for our drawing borders have to be in the same directory as our models. So we're going to pick a B-size drawing border, and then we're going to say okay or open, and then we're going to hit okay. So now it creates it automatically for us, and you'll notice that it's prompting us before we start anything to fill in the rest of the information for the title block. Now, make sure that you have your caps lock on. So as I start here, mine's not. So I'm going to put cast iron, okay. And then I'm KRR, and then this is called the base. Now, if you need to, you put your information in and you want to change it, you can always double click any of this and it is text editable. All right. So if you forgot to put your caps lock on, you didn't notice it, you can always double click on that text and it's all set. Now, as we're looking here, this is a more complex part. So unfortunately, like a ton of dimensions come in, which isn't very nice to look at. All right. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting rid of a bunch of these, and we're actually going to pull them in under that annotate by feature so that we'll have fewer to deal with rather than in the views. Now, this is nice to have these pull in when they're more simplistic drawings, and many of the ones that we have here are, but in this case, I'm going to get rid of a bunch of them. So, so to get rid of a bunch of them, all you're going to do is you're going to do a box, kind of drag over the top. Don't grab any of the geometry from any of the parts, and they're going to highlight green, and you can just hit the delete key. I'm going to do the same thing for these over here and just kind of get chunks of them for right now. Now, there might be some that we're going to use, but we'll be able to pull these back in. We'll be able to pull these back in more of a smaller scale, if you would. And then you can individually select ones to hold them all the way over here. I don't know why, but there's quite a few. I'm going to actually keep these 2 in place because they're good. You'll notice that there are also these lines. These are lines just so that you maintain proper and even spacing between the dimensions. They're there for a guide. They aren't there necessarily for you to use. I'm going to keep this 0.25, but I'm going to get rid of this one, that one, 1 inch. I'm going to keep that 0.125, get rid of these. Get rid of this. Let's see. Get rid of this one, because it's putting them on individually and there's extras in there. Okay, so now I have like a whole bunch of these. Now, if you got rid of them all, totally fine. These will come up again for us. Oh, I don't need that one. I just need one in a view. But it's just kind of cleans things up. If you want to also get rid of some of these guidance lines, we can go to annotate, and you have to be in annotate to do this, and you can get rid of, you know, a series of them. But again, be careful not to select the actual geometry. And all they're doing is, you'll notice from the part to the first one, it's a half inch. And then between, they're going to be 3/8 of an inch. Now, because there was so many dimensions, there's like extras in here because there was just a lot of dimensions. So I'm going to get rid of those. Now, they are here for the drawing purpose only and kind of laying down your dimensions. They will not print when you do your drawings. Okay, they will not be part of the PDF. They kind of disappear, but they're here for guidance as we're placing our dimensions. Okay, and you can get rid of them all if you want to. The other thing that I'm going to get rid of is going to be these planes. So I'm going to go up to here and I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to unselect everything. So it just kind of cleans everything up. Now, again, because this is a more complex and there's so many dimensions that we use to create the model, I just got rid of them all. And now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go by feature to pull these dimensions in. All right. So for instance, as we look here, we have the model tree from the actual model when we created the base part. So I'm going to go to the base, and now this is going to be the profile that was used to create that base portion. Okay, and I am simply going to have that selected in my model tree. I'm going to be on annotate. I'm going to go to show model annotations, and these then are the only dimensions that are going to come in that are related to how we created this feature. Okay. And then we can go and we can decide which ones we want to use. So as you know, as you hover over each one before you select it, it's going to turn orange. So this is the 6.25. As I look at my model, that isn't a dimension I use. That was kind of derived for it. So I'm not going to select that one. The 1.562, that is a dimension that I need. So I'm going to click on that one. Now, it might not be in the right place, but we're going to utilize it because remember, if I use these are driven dimensions, or they're driver dimensions, if you would. So if I click on these and I change these, I then change the model as well. So they have a connection to the model. When I start putting them in under annotate here and adding a dimension, it'll dimension it to what I want it to, where I want it to go. But if it wasn't one that was used to create the model, it's not going to be parametric back and forth. Okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes we physically can't do it the way that the dimensions are there. So we try to capture as many as possible, but sometimes in that creation of the geometry, it's just not happening. All right, our next one is our 5-inch dimension, which I believe we needed. The next one is going to be the 1.75. The next one is going to be that radius. And again, I'm just watching which ones are highlighting. This is to the center. And then it's this one. Oh, this one's the width of 2.75. So I'm going to grab that one too. So I'm going to keep almost all of these except for this 6.25. So now I'm going to apply those. And then I'm going to hit cancel. And then the ones that I didn't want go away. All right. Now, again, here I'm going to, figure out where I want these to go. So we do have a drawing guide that is out there, but I'm not gonna like pull that up. So I'm gonna grab this dimension here. I'm gonna pull it up. Remember, you have to click on it once and then it's activated. And then I'm gonna pull this up so that I am not touching the part. I'm maintaining my gaps. Then I'm gonna move this one. I'm gonna select this one. I'm gonna move this out. Okay, this is going to remain in this view, so this is totally fine. And then I also want to glance at what my dimensions are. So, so you'll notice that this is to 3 decimal places. Now my 5-inch, this is something to be aware of as we're looking at our drawings. We have just a regular 5-inch dimension there. All right. Now on our title block, we have the option and the ability you have decimals at 1 place, 2 place, and 3 place. The 1 place decimals are plus or minus 0.1 inches, plus or minus 0.02 or 20 thousandths for 2 place, and then plus or minus 5 thousandths for 3 place. Okay. Now, plus or minus 0.1, that's pretty generous for a 1 place decimal. I want you to default always to 2 decimal places, plus or minus 20 thousandths for anything that is like a 1 or a none place decimal. 0.1 is really, that's a lot. That's almost a 1/4 of an inch that we're allowing it to vary. So I'm going to change this one. I'm going to click on that dimension, and then my dimension ribbon is going to come up, and I'm going to change my precision. Okay. The change of my precision is right here in the middle, and I want to go from 3 to 2. Okay. 3 to 2. We always have to be sure if we're not adding a dimension or a tolerance after a dimension that it has the ability to and is appropriate for whatever is in our title block. And you could say, well, why didn't you do the 0.1? I'm not doing the 0.1 because I look at this dimension right here, plus or minus 0.1 of an inch. That's a total of 0.2. That's almost a 1/4 of an inch that we're varying for that width. And I think that's pretty extreme. So I'm going to 2 place, which isn't which isn't really that accurate. So I just find that better for the application that we have here. Now I'm going to pull this back as well, and I'm going to make sure that I have my gaps on each one of these dimensions here. Okay. Now these 2 dimensions are too close for sure. Okay. So, so I don't mind that 0.75, but I'm just going to move it out a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to change it to 2 place decimal, which is what the drawing says. Okay. Now the dimension here of 1.188. All right. When I made it in my model, I made it to it would be 1 3/16. So 0.1875. Okay. So it rounded it up. Now in the book, you'll notice that it says 0.187. If you drew it exactly to 0.187, that's fine. That'll come up here. But because this is an English drawing, they rounded, and you'll notice that it did that for me, but it rounded up instead of down. Now this is going to the center of this radius right here. So we need to generate that center. Okay. And to generate that center, we're going to have to go to sketch. We're going to have to draw a line, and we're going to have to grab where that center is. So we have to activate first, and I haven't clicked anything. I'm just hovering over the top of activate that radius. And now to the center, we're going to click to that. It's going to offer that for us. And now we want to go just straight up. Okay. And then we're going to, I middle mouse buttoned. I can click back at that point, go out again. And then I'm going to middle mouse button, go out to the left, and I'm going to go kind of zoom in here, go a little bit past. And I'm going to left click and go straight down, and middle mouse button in between to stop it, and then a second middle mouse button to completely stop it. All right. Now it's not perfect here, so I'm going to grab this corner, and I'm just going to kind of place it. Now remember, we're in a drawing, so it's not intended to be like this fantastic sketcher. All right. It's really not its intent, but that's okay. All right, so now I've got that in place, and that's just a little crosshairs so that when I select this dimension, I can grab this and pull it away so that I see the gap to what would be the center for that radius. Okay, now to relate that to the center of the radius, because it's kind of far away, I am going to simply, now again, we are all about clarity. All right, so yes, you have a dimension, and you could say, yeah, it's to the ANSI standard, but we could do it better by going up to this dimension, left clicking, and toggling on the arrows. And notice that now an option is it goes right to that center. Now you can be like, what is that little crosshairs there for? Oh, it's for the radius of the outside of that side. Okay, so this is the best way to actually, dimension that or show that dimension. If you need to toggle again, because that one didn't come up for you, just left click outside of it to unselect it, then reselect it with the left click, and then toggle again. And you're going to notice there's that. And that's not a bad one either. That one's actually totally fine. And then you can toggle again to kind of keep going. We don't want that one because that's the full circle one. So toggle off. And then I think it's going to come back to this one. But again, I like where we can actually see where it's going to. So either this one or the one where it points back, those two are going to be the best ones. Okay, so that's placing those dimensions. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go around and you're going to pick the best places. Now up on the top here, you're going to notice that the best place for this is going to be down in this view, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to say, oh, change the view to down here. And now it's going to place it down there for us. Now, again, we can move it around, no problem, but that's how you move between. Now, again, there is a guide out there for this. Now, the next thing that I want to do is show you how to put in a section view. Okay. Now the section view is going to be over here on the right. So I am going to actually go back to my layout tab. I'm going to unlock the view movement. I'm going to select this view and now I'm going to move it over. So left click to move it over closer this way. So I create some room over here. All right. And now I want to create a projected view over here. I can't create a section until I have a view in place. So I'm going to go up here on my, again, layout tab, projection view. I'm going to click on the front view and then I'm going to left click. I'm going to just drag. I haven't clicked. I'm kind of dragging and I'm going to left click where I want that view to be. Now it's going to place it on like a random, type of a view. So now what I want to do is I want to reselect that and I want to change it. I want to edit it. And I'm going to go to my view display. Now this is going to end up being a section view. All right, so that means that my view style is no hidden lines and I'm going to have no tangent lines at all. So remove all the tangent lines by switching this to none. Okay, and then I'm going to hit apply. So now if I move this over, this stays up and now I've got this looking like that. Okay, now it's still a right side view, but we want it to be a section view. Now this section view is going to go through and it's going to cut in the middle here somewhere. All right, that's what I want. I want to cut in the middle here so that I can, add some details that I need. So I am going to utilize that datum plane that I created in my model. All right, now if at this point you don't have a datum plane, then you want to go back and you want to create it like I showed you in the model. Even if you didn't use it for a mirror, just put a datum plane in place so that then we can select it as our cutting plane. Okay. So that's going to be the datum that I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to go up here to still having this view selected. I'm going to go to sections, 2D cross section, and I want to add one. Now there's an A and a B out there because I've done these before, but we're going to add a new one. So, I'm going to say, I'm going to create new, and we are going to go through this process. This menu comes up. It's going to be down in the lower right-hand corner, planar, single, done. And now it's asking me, what do you want to call it? So we're going to call it the next letter in the alphabet, C. But if this is your first section, you're putting A in here. Okay. Then I'm going to hit OK. And then down here, it says, all right, what plane? Select your plane now. All right. Now the plane isn't shown here and you don't have to show it. If you wanted to, you could turn it back on, but we can select it over here in our design tree. All right. And so it selected it. And then you're going to notice here that it says, okay, here's my C. It went to local for some reason, not sure, but we want it to be a full section. And then we can hit, why isn't it? Oh, no, I don't want that. I want a full section. C, I want a full section. C, I want a full section. Oh, CREO, you are difficult. So I'm going to hit a cancel here for 1 second. We're going to go back in, unselect, reselect. Let's try this again. Section view, 2D, plus. I'm gonna add in. I want to create new. I want to do a planar, single, done. We'll do D. Okay. I'm going to select my plane to be my datum plane 1. And now it says local. So I want to go to full. Oh, CREO, you are so difficult. Why? Cancel. Let me pause for a second and I will be back. I think I might have to delete my other section views, but I'll update you. I'll be back. Okay, so what I've done is I've gone back to my model view. And I'm going to have to delete the sections that have been created in here. So I've done a couple of them just because, of creating this and doing demos and stuff like that. So I'm going to individually select each one of these. I'm going to right click and then I'm going to hit delete. And I'm going to say highlighted, deleted. Yes. I'm going to do the same thing for C, delete. Same thing for B, left click, right click, delete, and okay. A, left click, right click, delete. Okay, and now the sections go away. All right, I'm going to do a regen on this up in the corner here, and then I'm going to do a file save. Okay, file save. And then I always like to get rid of my old versions so that they're not hanging out. Okay, and now let's go back to our drawing. So we're going to go back to the drawing itself, and you'll notice that they should be removed. There aren't any sections that are on here. Okay, so we're cleaned up, if you would. So, I'm going to select that view again. I'm going to go to edit definition. I'm going to go down to sections. We're going to add a 2D section, and you'll notice that A's and B's didn't come up this time because we deleted them out of the model. And down here, that menu says planar, single, done. We're going to call this one A because it is now our first one. Okay. And then we're going to say, okay, what plane do we want to do that? So this is the setup plane. And I'm going to, in my tree here, I'm going to find that datum 1. Okay. And now it created A as a full section. That's the default. And that's what we want. If it does go to local, you should be able to change it to full. I'm not sure why mine didn't before, but it just didn't want to. And now I'm going to hit apply. And now you'll notice that it changes this to a full section. Okay. So I'm going to hit cancel here because I'm done. And now I'm going to go down into this view. I'm going to unselect this and I'm going to hover over the sectioning because it's too close together. So I'm simply going to left click and then I'm going to hit this left button each time. And what that's doing is it's increasing the scale until I get it to something that I think looks good. You can do it up here when you select this edit. Hatching is going to come up as a ribbon and you can select and you can change that scale there. But sometimes it's like, what do I change it to? I don't know. So this way you can visually see it actually change. If you think this is too wide, left click it again and go down if you like that better. So I'm going to go with this one. I think this one looks pretty good. Now, additionally, it puts section AA in here because it's calling it that. So I'm simply going to left click it and I'm going to then put it down below. It has to be, you're going to notice you're going to be adding some dimensions here. Don't let it float randomly here. This is the title of this view and we put it down below the view underneath after we have all of our dimensions in place. So make sure that, that you leave enough room, but if you have to move it again, you certainly may. Now, the very last thing we need to do is add the arrows over here. So I'm going to select that view and I'm going to add arrows. This is in my layout menu or my layout ribbon. I'm going to select arrows and then I'm going to put the arrows in the front view and they automatically select here. Okay. Now you'll notice that they're going over the top of the number 5. So I'm going to simply select this. I'm going to be able to move this down and should be able to move it in and down. There we go. I can make them shorter. And now I have my section view or my section arrows. And down. So maybe something, I think I'm going to go something like this, make it a little bit more even. And there are my arrows. Okay. You cannot have them go down below the surface because it's including, remember, this is the view, we're looking in this direction and those arrows are always going to be pointing away from our section view. They place them in the correct orientation, so don't be moving those around, but they have to be taller than the highest and lower than the lowest extents of our view because that's what's being included here. Okay. All right, so that's our section AA. So make sure that those are in place. Don't forget your arrows because we'll be looking for those. All right, so now I want to look at the tolerances that we're going to be putting here. So this is a great view to put those values in. So we're going to go up to actually down to our base cut. Okay, this is where those values were put into our view. So base cut, and that's why naming these different features is nice, especially at this level when I want to just pull in the dimensions for that feature. I know what the feature is rather than just calling it an extrude 1, an extrude 2, and stuff like that. Okay. So I am going to have that selected, go up to annotate and go to show model annotations. Okay. Now you'll notice that I don't have as many dimensions to deal with, but I've got the ones that I need. Okay, so these are in place here. So it looks like as I hover over the top, I want the 1.0625. Yep, I want that one, and I want the width and the width. And I'm going to say apply. Okay, and then I'm going to hit cancel. Then we're going to go over and we're going to go and we're going to click on it and we're going to change the view and I'm going to put it down here. And then I'm going to click it. Oopsie, click on the wrong thing. Click this one, change view, put it down here. And that one's over the top. So let's move this down. Now mine have the tolerance on them because again, I've been working on this drawing before and it's remembering that. It's so smart. And then I also want to take this one, but I'll put it back and I'll show you how to change these. We're going to put this one over here because this is where we see it nicely. And then we're going to take this one and we're going to switch it over to here as well. And probably put this one on this side and maybe put it in between here. And then the last one that we have is going to be this one and that view as well. Now, in the case of, for instance, like this 1.6875 dimension, if you feel like I want to put it over here, I think that's okay. But I also want you to realize that if we're doing the width here for these, doing the height and putting the dimensions in place for everything, it's always nice to have it all in one view. So something to think about. It wouldn't be wrong to put it over here, but I think this is better placement because if we're dimensioning one portion of the feature, why not do all of it in the same view? Then we're not looking around for things. Okay. So let's take a peek first at our 1.562. So this one, I want to go to the middle and I want to pull this out so that I have my gap. Go to the middle, drag, pull out so I have my gap. All right. We don't want these overlapping. Same thing for these. And I'll do a little bit more cleanup here. That one looks good. I'm going to select this one. This one needs to be pulled out. Okay. Same thing here, gaps, gaps, gaps. Make sure that we're maintaining those. Sometimes you have to select lower so that you get an opportunity to grab your ends. So now I have those all pulled away from the portions, right? And I'm first going to select the 1.562. My dimension ribbon comes up. I want to change the precision to be 3 places, right? Yep. So that's going to be 3 places. So that looks good. No tolerance needed for that one. I can do the very same thing for this dimension. Okay, I'm going to select it. And then if I have more that I want to do, I can do that very same thing. So then I'm going to do 3 places for this one as well. Now, funny thing, on the drawing, this is called out to 4 decimal places, but we don't have anything in our title block to say 4 decimal places. All right. So I'm going to hit the control button, hold it, and I'm going to click it. And now notice that it selects more so that I can change the precision to be 3 for both of these. So change that 1.6875 height dimension to 3 places. Okay, so what I'm talking about on here is as I'm glancing, this is a 4-place decimal, but we don't have 4-place decimals in our title block. So we can't have it listed here without a tolerance. And we're not going to add a tolerance. The plus or minus 5 thousandths is totally fine for that. Okay, so this one has to be 3 places. Okay, let's look at our dimensions here. I'm going to put these back to nominal and nominal. So when they're coming in, this is what the default will be for you. So it's going to be whatever the number was that I modeled these at. And this was the number that I modeled at. Now, as I look at my ribbon up on top here, when I select one of these dimensions, my ribbon is going to now have the ability to put in these tolerances. Okay, so when I did them the original time, I had them in there as plus or minus 2 thousandths. So that was the number that we had determined. So if we go back to over here, this is this dimension, we said, okay, we're going to draw it at 1.002, but it has to be +2 to get up to that high number and -2 to get down to the lower. And when I say 2, it's 2000ths, 0.002. So now we're going to go back over here to our drawing, and we're going to make sure that our tolerance is up here, okay? And that's +2 on the top and -2 on the bottom, all right? And that's 0.002 and 0.002. Now we're going to switch our tolerance over, and we want it to show as limits and not nominal. So I'm going to go to my limits then, once I have those in place. And now you're going to notice that it's showing it as the limits here, okay? And it's showing it down here as the limits as well, okay? So you have to set up the tolerance first before the limits are going to show. So if I go back to, for instance, if it comes in as my nominal value, okay, and I'm going to click on that dimension again, and let's say there's nothing listed here, nothing listed here. Is it going to let me do that? Zeros, I don't know, whatever the default would normally be, zeros. Let's see, zeros. Okay, so there's nothing in there, all right? And if I try to go over here and say, okay, I want to set my limits, of course it's going to remember it because it's so smart, but you may have problems doing that. So you first have to, when you're on nominal, put your values in for 2000s. And then remember that the bottom needs to be a -0.002. Otherwise it's gonna, well, let's do this. Let's do 0.002. If I forget the minus, it's gonna do it automatically. But if I forget that, can I do a minus and make it a plus, right? And if I accept that and I go to tolerance and limits, notice the same value goes in, but that's not what I want. I'm gonna go to nominal. So play around with these a little bit. -0.002 needs to be on the bottom. Tolerance, limits, and now it's correct. Okay, so let's do that for this bottom one here. So we've got this right now at 1.252. Make sure that your tolerance here is positive 0.002 on top, negative 0.002 on the bottom. Then we're going to move over and we're going to go to limits, and now it's going to show those there. Okay, now you'll notice that when we show limits, limits is really just saying what is our absolute high and our absolute low. Now I'm going to move these apart too, because these are a little close, and I'm going to move this down to create some more room. And yeah, I don't want to be too close to the part either. Remember, we want to maintain like that 1/2 inch distance, you know, so right about there-ish that we want that to be away. And then we need to be in between here as well. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. This might be a little close. I might move this out over here. I think I might like that a little bit better. Now, you don't have to put the gaps here if you don't want to. It's a level of detail that it's nice, but it's not required. Okay, so I wonder, what if we do something like this? Yeah, we don't want those on the inside either, though. It's best to put the wider ones out. There we go. So this looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Now, the other thing you want to be sure of, if you look at this dimension right here, do you see how there's pretty much no landings after the arrowhead? It's just arrowhead and then text. You don't want to do that. All right. That's not to the standard. You have to have you have to have the actual the landings, if you would, the lines in there. And what it's going to do is it's going to do something like that. And I'm going to unselect, I'm going to reselect, and I'm going to click on, it says flip arrow to the other side. And we need a landing. It's not putting a landing in here. So I don't like that. If I go up to the top, I don't think it'll do it there either. Select arrows on the outside. Why isn't it? There we go. I think I like that better. That's much better. We'll put the arrows on the outside. That way you see little lines beyond the arrows. Otherwise, like I said, you don't have enough room there. So if we toggle this one more time and put it back on the inside, you see how that doesn't look as good? There we go. That's a better option. Always make sure when you're inside that you have some line there. I don't think there's a minimum value, but you want to see that there's actually line and not just arrowhead. Okay. Then you've got to move the text to the outside or toggle it so that the arrows go on the outside. All right. So there's that. Let's see. The next thing that we want to do is we want to add in, let's add in some notes. So we need to show our threads. Now remember, our threads are at the end. So I want to put in, I'm going to select the whole here. I'm going to show model annotations. And there's a whole lot of business going on here, and we don't need all of it. Okay. So let's kind of hover over the 1-inch dimension we will need. So I'm going to click that one. Then we are going to not need the diameter of 0.201. That was the inside hole, but we're going to be calling it all out in a note. I don't need the 100, oopsie, untoggle the 118. I don't need that one. I don't need the 0.625 because that's going to be part of our note. I don't need the diameter of a 1/4 inch. That's going to be part of our note. I don't need the 0.4. That's part of our note. And lastly, when I look, this one's up here. When I look at the very last one, I do need the 0.625. So I'm going to grab that one. Okay. And I'm going to apply. So everything's going to go away once I hit cancel, and only the dimensions that I wanted are going to be here. So one of the dimensions was this one, and I want to place that now in, I want it in this view, right? Because I see it there really nice and close. So that's going to be my 1-inch dimension. Okay. Put that over there. I'll clean it up in a little bit. I need my 0.625. We're going to put that down here as well. Okay. Then, is there anything else? I think it was it just those two? It was. Okay. So now you're going to see that here's our locations, but they're going to the sides of the hole. We need to add in our center lines. So to do the center lines, we're going to select the outside here. We're going to go up to show model annotations, go all the way over to the right-hand side, and I'm going to move this so that we can see which ones come in. So I'm going to hover over the top. My first one is this one right here. So I'm going to select that one. And the next one is over there. Then the next one is back over here. These are center lines in front and in back of each other. I don't want that one because I don't want two of them called out. I don't want that one. I don't want that one because in this view, that center line is that feature is not there, but I do want this one. And I want the last one. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to hit apply, cancel, and it gets rid of the ones that I don't want. Now what I want to do is I want to select these dimensions, and I want to go to their edges, and I want to come out, create a gap, and then release, create a gap, and then release. Same thing here, select this dimension, create my gap, and release, create my gap, and release. Okay. Now the decimals I have to change to 3 place. So I'm going to select both of them, control and hold, and those both are going to go to 3 place decimal. Okay. The next dimension that I want to add is going to be this one in between. Now remember, we did use that when we modeled it. So we're going to go down to the second hole now. Go down here to my second hole. I'm going to show annotations, and I'm not going to show the center lines. I want to show the dimensions. So I'm going to have to zoom out here because it's going to probably go back into that front view again. I'm going to hover over the top. I don't need the 1-inch dimension because that was already added in from the previous hole, and they're in line with one another. So I don't need that one. I don't need the 0.2. I don't need the 118. I don't need the 0.625. That'll be part of my note. Note down. And our last one here is the 1.5. That's the only one that I need. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to say apply and cancel. So the only one was this one. It's up in this view. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to change my view, and I'm going to go down here with it. Now you might be asking, why do you want to go through that trouble? Now remember, if I use the ones that are part of the model, I can double click these here and they're going to change the model. And I'll show you that in just a bit. So if I go out and I do this, and I pull this one out, this one needs to be a 3 place decimal. And then I need to hover over and create my gap and create my gap. Okay. All right. Looks good. I think I'm going to move this 0.625 though. I'm going to move it on this side. There we go. Just so that they're offset. I'm going to pull this a little bit further away. A little bit further away. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Okay. All right. Now we need to add our hole. call out. I'm gonna push this closer. There we go. All right, I need to add my whole call out, and I'm gonna use this one right here because I'm gonna have some room kind of going up into the left here. Now to call out this hole, let's look at what we're given here. It says 2 by 0.25-20 UNC-2B. So 2B just means that it's a internal hole. 2A would be an external thread. And then it has a depth of 0.625. Okay, so we're going to create that as a manual note first, and then we're going to attach it here. And then I'm kind of rethinking this. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to put those in there. I'm going to put my my arrowheads on the outside. So I'm going to off here, go there. And again, this is playing with it. This is playing with it. There we go. I like that better. We're going to bring this down a little bit. Bring this down a little bit. That's much better. And now I've got room for that note. So I'm going to add the note here. This is on the annotate ribbon. I'm just going to place this right here and I'm going to start typing. So I want it to be 2 by space 0.250-20 UNC-2B. Okay, you could stop at the UNC. That would be fine. We just add it because it's part of this note and it's just again, another clarification. And then I'm going to hit enter and I need to grab the symbol of depth, and that you'll notice that there's symbols that automatically come up here. I'm going to arrow this down and I should see it. There it is. It's right there. Okay. The depth symbol comes in and I want that to be a depth of 0.625. Okay. And that's it. All right. So now I'm going to keep that there and I'm just going to left click out of it. Now I want to attach this to that feature. Okay. So on my annotate ribbon, I'm going to go to attach. I'm going to select my text. I'm going to select the whole, and then I'm going to middle mouse button back in the middle here. All right. And it's going to kind of push it out like that, which is okay. All right. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to middle mouse button to get off of my attach or hit escape. Then I'm going to reselect this and then I'm going to move this so that it's there. Now I didn't want this to be at that center, so I think I should be able to. Is it going to let me? I don't think it is. Let's see if I can reattach that a little bit differently. So I'm going to do an undo and undo. Do it for me. There we go. One more time. There we go. There's my note. I'm going to attach it one more time and I'm going to be a little bit more selective here. I'm going to do my note and then I'm going to select this outside one, see if that's going to work. And then middle mouse button here. Yeah, it did, but I don't like that placement either. So let's do a middle mouse button, unselect. Oh, did the whole thing. Let's redo it. Okay. Let's move this around. Ugh. Because you'll notice that it's not going through the center. So you have to be careful where you actually pick. So I'm wondering, oh, I could. All right. So when I'm in this mode, I was able to. So sometimes CREO is okay. Let's try that one more time and make that go a little more smoothly. So we're going to add the note first. We're going to just place it. Just going to add it there. Place it 2 by 0.250-20 UNC-2B, enter. We're going to go down here. It's 0.625. So that looks good. Go up there. Middle mouse button. And then we're going to attach it. And we're going to be selected. We're going to attach this to this. And then middle mouse button up here. Okay. So now we are going to, I want to unselect myself from attach. So I'm going to hit the middle mouse button a couple times. I'm going to reselect here. I'm going to move right about there. And that's actually not bad at all. But if you wanted to, you can move this so that it's to the center, so that it's perpendicular to that surface. And then it'll look like it's going through the center. If you point at the very center, that's not to the standard. Make sure that you're on the outside, you know, of either the thread or the hole, whichever one, either one of these features is okay, but we don't want it on the top. We don't want it on the bottom. We want to make sure that as we extend this, it's going to extend through the center of that hole. Okay, so that's the call out for that one. The other thread that we have is going to be the call out for this Acme thread. Now, unfortunately, the cosmetic threads weren't working, okay, when we want to show them in this view. The threads you'll notice are showing up for our holes because we created those with the hole wizard, but this one is not. This one is not. So just drawing it with a 0.625 in the model is totally fine. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to sketch and we're going to sketch a circle. Okay. And we're going to start at the center of that circle and we're going to go to just a little bit outside of it. All right. Just a little bit. And it's there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to reselect that hole, left click on it, and we're going to go to this little pencil that comes up. We're going to look at the line style. We're going to click on that. We're going to go to a line style that is going to be a dash font. That's going to be a hidden line. Okay. So we're going to say, okay, apply, and we can see a preview of it. That looks great. And then we're going to say close. And now it's there. All right. We can do that very same thing then for our side views to show that level. So we're going to do a line over here and I'm going to see, yep, I can go like that. It's going to go over. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up a little bit. I'm going to up a little bit. There we go. And then we're simply going to go over. Okay. And then another line underneath here and here. And then I'm going to go up on the top here. I'm going to do that very same thing. Let's see if I can. These are the 0.625s. We want to go outside of that. So we just want to go there and there. And this doesn't have to be super accurate. This is only for, this is only for the drawing purposes to note that this is a thread. Okay, so you don't have to be super perfect on this. All right, now the holes that I need or the lines that I need to change are going to be this one. This one. This one. Ones that are in blue right now. This one, and I'm using my control key to grab each one of these. And I have 4 of them selected right now. And I'm going to hit, reselect that one. You reselect. So it's this one, and I'm holding the control key, this one and that one. And now I'm going to hit that style again. Rather than doing them separately, you can use that control key. And I'm going to do dashed lines, apply. There they are. You can see them there. And then you're going to also see them in this view as well. And then we can hit apply and close. Okay, so now those are in place. So it more accurately shows that this is an Acme thread. So we're going to do that very same thing by adding a note like we did over here for the Acme thread. And then we're going to be pointing at its center. So we're going to go to annotate, note, and this one's pretty simple. This is just going to be 0.625-8 Acme, and that's it. Okay. And I'm going to left click outside of this. I'm going to go back to annotate, and we want to attach this. Actually, I'm going to, before I do this, it's in the right place. Do that again. Note 0.625-8 Acme. Left click out, middle mouse button or escape to be done. Okay. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to attach my note to my hole. And then middle mouse button between them. And now I'm here. I got to get myself unattached. So I have to hit escape or middle mouse button. I'm going to select this and then I'm going to move it right about here. There we go. Okay, and then I can move that as well as I need to. So now I have that note in that view. You'll notice that this view needs its center lines as well. So as long as we're on the annotate tab here, I'm going to select this view, go to show model annotations all the way to the right. And then again, you've got to watch. Here's my first one. I'll do that one on the left, on the right. Then it goes back to left. Don't reselect. Don't reselect. And now I want the center here. I want the center of my threaded hole. Even though I'm not dimensioning them in this view, I do want the center lines in there, and then cancel. There we go. Looks good. Looks good. Now these aren't all the dimensions, but I wanted to show you how to do those couple, especially with the threads, adding the note, a little finicky as we saw, but as long as you kind of take your time and pay attention. And again, as you continue to add dimensions, go down your design tree here. And like I said, I suggest doing it feature by feature rather than having them all come in at once. So the next place would probably be the foot. So you'll notice here are a foot, and we're going to then show those model annotations, go to the front tab, and then now you're going to, select the ones that you want. Okay. So, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit cancel right now. I'm going to let you kind of finish up this process with the actual drawing. Now, once you get everything placed, okay, remember in our learning or in the learning plan for module number 5, there is a guide for the base because that one has a lot of dimensions on it. So I wanted to be sure I gave you a little bit more guidance because there's just a lot going on. So so double check your dimensions to that. Now, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, exactly placed or anything like that, but just know that that's abiding by the standards. And if you want to deviate a little bit, that's okay, as long as you're still abiding by the standard. Okay. But if you're not, then it's going to be something that you're going to have to fix up. Okay. So, so now when I'm ready to print, the process is going to be file. And then I'm going to be going down to save as, but I'm not going to click. I'm going to go to export. Okay. So now I'm going to make sure that PDF is selected, and I'm going to export right here. Right. And then I've got to name it. So I'm going to say, okay, we'll name it that. And then this came up on my other screen, but you should see a preview of your actual drawing. And this is going to be the one then that you will then select and upload to your assignment. And notice it's all cleaned up here. So you don't see any of those guidelines. You see, it looks like a perfect, drawing. So, so this is going to reflect what you have in your dimensioning. Okay. And this is going to be what you actually upload. So, so that concludes my little demo here of some of the details that you're going to run into as you are creating this base model. You can close out of this when you're ready, and then you're going to want to go in, you're going to want to do your save and all that kind of stuff so that you don't lose the drawing file itself. If you're running and you're doing things and you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful.